My name is John Lee with St. Louis Real Estate Investors Association. Today is Friday, April 9th, 2021, and we're here with Miss Kathy Davis of Davis Stravellini LLC. And Kathy, please fill us in on all the great updates you have for us.
Yeah, it's actually been an amazing week. The St. Louis County started issuing executions on Monday. Now, I'll just do a brief recap of this. When we file a rent and possession lawsuit, um, the tenant gets served, there's a court date, the tenant can appear or not, we get a judgment. And then in usual times, after so many days, we can execute on that judgment. So that's what we're talking about here is the executions when the tenant is sued and taken to court and they still don't pay and they still don't move. After we get a judgment, we can file a sheriff's execution. And the court put those on hold last March. Now, last March, in the middle of March, you'll recall we had the big shutdown. The court essentially closed. Their position is that the court is always open, but it wasn't open for anything in-person hearings except dire emergencies. We didn't have dockets and that kind of thing for a couple of months. At that time, we had judgments, some from 2019, that we had filed executions on that had not been executed yet, and all those were stopped. And the St. Louis County presiding judge issued an administrative order halting all of those. When they started having court again remotely last May, we were able to get judgments again, but there was still a hold on executing on these judgments. And we've played various games with various monies that have been given out by the federal government to get landlords paid for rent and that kind of thing. And that hasn't been. I think some of the people we know have gotten money, but it wasn't necessarily an easy process. The tenant was required to cooperate, and a lot of them wouldn't do it. And there's I think a lot of things got worked out, but there are a number of tenants, the kind of tenants that just decided they were just going to stay put until the sheriff came. Well, now the sheriff is coming. They, the presiding judge a few weeks ago had said that they were going to start all regular executions on Monday. And they did. And so a lot of these had been sitting in what they call the queue for over a year. And to their credit, they started with the oldest ones first, which is what we expected. And somewhat by chance, on Monday, I was checking on a case and found that the execution had been issued. And this was odd because we usually get a CaseNet generated email every time something happens on one of our cases. So it was odd to me that I hadn't gotten that yet, but I thought, well, maybe I got to give total congratulations to my whole team here, but Christine is really organized, and she had a list of all the executions that she's had pending for over the last year, and she started checking on them, and she found that about a dozen of them had been issued. So I raced over there Monday afternoon because we anticipated that everybody was going to, start getting their executions issued, and there was going to be a big pile and a big backup with the sheriff's department scheduling them and that kind of thing. And we wanted to get to the top of the list. Well, I ran over Monday afternoon with about 12 executions, and there was a little confusion at first. And we had to find the box where we were supposed to put them because we're not allowed to go up to the sheriff's office yet, and that kind of thing. And we got that all worked out, but nobody else had brought any over as of that point. And the same thing happened on Tuesday. Christine was moving through our backlog, checking the cases. We got up to last summer on Tuesday. We ran more over. Wednesday, I think we made 2 trips. And Thursday, I know we made 2 trips. The whole time, the other eviction lawyers are not processing any of their executions. We found out that there was a glitch in the software that notifies people that their executions are issued. So people weren't being notified. So if they hadn't kept a detailed list like Christine does, they would be looking for the needle in the haystack, trying to figure out which cases they had out there and that kind of thing. I mean, really, we are so lucky here to have Christine and have her be so organized, and really my whole staff. I mean, we were on top of this all week. It was very busy. Doing all this. But we think that now the court figured out that the other attorneys weren't getting notified and that they're trying to notify them. But on Tuesday, we had our first calls from the sheriff scheduling evictions. So we're evicting people in the county starting next week. I know that we're not supposed to be jubilant about that, but we are. And, and some of the people that are being evicted really need to go. I mean, they're really people who have not done anything to help themselves. They're driving their neighbors crazy. I mean, they're just not the people that you would ever want to keep as tenants, ever, ever. Now we come to the thing that could put a hitch in this, and that's the CDC declarations. And that's another thing where this is more my thing than it is the other people here. But I've got the 3 federal cases where the CDC moratorium has been declared unconstitutional. I've got some memos. I'm getting ready. If we have an eviction scheduled with the sheriff and the client wants us to do it, I'm getting ready to start having emergency hearings on these CDC moratoriums. And we're going to have 2 lines of attack. One is the fact that 3 different federal courts have declared them unconstitutional. And the second is we're looking for good cases to do our first couple of arguments. We want ones where it's really clear that these people, if they filed a CDC moratorium declaration, that they're lying. And this includes people where the judgments were rendered before COVID, or the one case that I have, what was our test case for the writ and everything. And I found out by poking around online that these people not only haven't paid rent to our client since 2019, they have multiple other eviction judgments, and they are also suing a casino for a slip and fall. So apparently, while they've been stiffing every landlord in St. Louis on their rent, they've been at the casino. I mean, I'm wanting to make this argument. I got to tell you, because these people in the CDC moratorium declaration, they have to say that they're doing the best they can. They're trying to make partial payments. They're applying for aid. These people aren't going to be able to show any of that. Now, they haven't filed a declaration yet. We don't know if they will, but we're ready. I've got memos drafted, ready to insert the specific facts and the specific case information. If we get a CDC moratorium declaration that we think is false and that we think we can challenge. So we have evictions scheduled for our clients all next week. And then we also have, although we've been touching base with the clients and calling them and saying it's issued now, do you still want it to go to the sheriff and that kind of thing? There are also people who at the last minute, because they do get contacted by the sheriff and they know they move, they come up with the money, that kind of thing. It makes you think maybe they've had it all along, but I don't know. So a significant number of the ones that were in the process is the court issues them. We're supposed to get this email, which we haven't been getting, but that might be fixed now. And we print out the 2 copies of the issued execution. We have to carry it over. Right now it's placing it in a box in the lobby of the courthouse. I guess the sheriff can't operate a fax machine, but we have to carry them over there. And then the sheriff calls the contact person on the execution, usually a property manager or the owner or somebody, and sets the date for them to go out. And then the sheriff goes out and posts the property and tells the tenant they're coming. It's like 5 business days. So roughly a week later, the sheriff is coming. So at that point, the tenant, if they're still there, sometimes they move, sometimes they make the payment arrangements and that kind of thing. The sheriff is telling our landlords when they call, your eviction is scheduled for Thursday, April 15th. We're going to call you the day before and let you know the exact time. I think they've actually always done this, although I never had to pay too much attention to it until the shutdown. But that way, if they get ones that cancel, they can move through them more quickly. They have generally never done evictions on Friday in the county. We're not sure if they're going to add Friday or not. But at this point, we believe that they're scheduling for the week of April 19th. And again, we're continuing to carry ours over there as fast as we get them issued by the court so that we're not at the bottom of a big pile. The word that we had heard was that there were 600 executions in the queue that had built up over the last year. And some of them, like I said, were from over a year ago. On our cases, they're up to ones we filed in October and November. So they've gone through, at least for ours, where we're printing them out. Can I say again that we're the only ones who figured out to do this and are on top of it? I'm so proud of everyone here. But we're marching through these pretty quickly. I'm pretty happy. And I also feel like when I have these stupid meetings with these tenant people and the presiding judge, and they're, oh, this flood of evictions. I had said even then, I don't think there is. A lot of these are going to work themselves out. A lot are going to get canceled, or the people are going to pay, or they're going to move voluntarily. I mean, it's not going to be 600 families on the street on the first day. It just doesn't work that way. And so that's what's going on. If you have a judgment with us and you want it executed on, give us a call or fax over the sheet or email us or whatever, so we can make sure we get those done. If you have one that's been in line for the last year or so, you should look on CaseNet, because it might be getting issued. We expect to be caught up through the end of 2020, today or Monday. So at the rate they're going. So that's my good big news.
That's great news.
Thanks. I guess on the not so great news, Judge Stelzer in the city kind of hosed all of us, because he kept saying he was going to end their moratorium, but he didn't. He extended it through April, and he added all unlawful detainers. So we're getting more evictions there, but we really think that the beginning of May is going to be the end of it for him. Now, there's another thing that in the county, they are making us file with our new eviction lawsuits an affidavit saying that the landlord is not going to apply for the county ERAP money and not going to participate in that program. And I think that it's really dumb that they're making us do this, because I think a lot of landlords would like to file the lawsuit, and then they would be open to getting the assistance if it's going to happen. But the way the assistance program has been run so far has been abysmal. So they don't want to just rely on that. Now, if you file that affidavit with the new lawsuit, that doesn't stop the tenant from applying, because you can't stop them from applying, although you can choose whether you're going to participate or not. But what we are basically saying to our clients is, if you're going to file the lawsuit, you have to file this affidavit. So don't apply for the money. Let us get a judgment, and then apply for the money if you want to at that time, or participate in the application, and see if you can get some help. Supposedly the program's very generous, but it doesn't seem to be very operational yet. The inside baseball that I hear is that the people at the county are really mad at this California company that they hired and gave $3 million to administrate the program. And it does sound like it's massive administrative failures, online application portals not working. You call the number and the person doesn't have any idea what to tell you and doesn't know the answer to any question. So it sounds bad. And particularly now that the county's send the sheriff out again. I mean, when we found out about these affidavits, I said, our landlords are not going to want to not file suit. And that's what's happening. Everybody's just saying, no, we'll file suit. We'll go with the sure thing, rather than try to navigate through another multiple layers of county bureaucracy to get this money. I mean, there are people who probably are qualified to get the money, tenants who are qualified to get the assistance. But when they make it so hard, after the hard year we've already had, I don't blame you guys. I think they're nuts. So I'd be interested, as always, to hear people's stories about applying and how that goes for them. In the city, they're doing it a little differently. We don't know if it will change with the new mayor. I'm very apprehensive about the new mayor, but we'll see. But the way Mayor Cruson was saying was that they were giving priority to people who already had judgments against them and were in imminent danger of being eviction, which to me makes sense. So in the city, it didn't matter if you filed suit or that kind of thing. And in the county, they want you to say that you won't file suit, and you won't file suit for 4 months if you participate in their program, which is another reason why I'm saying, hey, let's get a judgment real fast, because they can't make us dismiss, quote unquote, a judgment. you know, once it's a judgment, it's a judgment, and you can still execute on it until it's paid. And if you accept some money for them and get it partially paid, you still have that there if the rest of it doesn't get paid. Or if it gets all paid, then we're all great, right? So the Supreme Court of Missouri made a new phase for courts. It's phase 4, when vaccines are widely available. And that's going to go back to courts operating as usual, except like we'll have to wear masks and stuff, I think. A lot of the counties are already going to phase 4. We think that St. Louis City and County will drag their feet going to phase 4, but it should happen soon. So
What
St. Charles-
happens in phase 4, Kathy?
the courts return to like regular operating, except that they're going to have to like wear masks and social distancing in the courtroom.
Oh, they're not requiring the vaccination.
No.
Okay.
Now, I know you and I probably disagree on this, Dwayne, but I really hope that everybody gets vaccinated. I've
Yeah.
been vaccinated since December 1st. I'm fine. I don't have 3 heads. Everybody that I know that's been vaccinated is doing well. And I just want everyone to be safe and get through this and stop the spread of this virus. So that's all I'll say about that, though. I think there's something in the chat. Let me see what it is. In the county, if we have a judgment and the tenant has voluntarily moved out. Oh, no, I don't think this is the question about can they get the money to pay back an old judgment if they've already moved. I don't think so. The purpose of the program is to prevent people from coming homeless. So they're only going to be able to get money for their current landlord. I don't think they're going to be able to do that. And in what I think is sort of good news, at least the last meeting I had about this with the powers that be, the tenant people were trying to get the court to hide all the eviction judgments on CaseNet. I don't think they're getting anywhere with that. Case by case, they might be able to do it from time to time, but I think as a blanket thing, they're not going to be able to do that. But I would still advise you not to rely just on CaseNet for your screening. You know, pull credit reports, check prior landlords, you know, that kind of thing. Has
I have a
anybody else?
question.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
So I've got a unlawful detainer with Chris and in the city.
Yeah.
And next Wednesday, we're supposed to get a judgment. I was
Yeah.
contacted yesterday by the Urban League saying, you know, we're trying to assist this tenant, which I've come to find out they're facilitating the ERAP for the landlord and tenants. So what would be my move or not move? I mean, you kind of spoke to it earlier, but try to get the judgment on Wednesday, then maybe apply for that ERAP, which as you've said, is really difficult. But again, she's beyond, I mean, with me, she's 5 months behind, and because we bought it 5 months ago, and then she's beyond her lease with a Section 8 voucher.
Why are we doing unlawful detainer? Is there, I mean, let me ask that in a different way. Does she have behavior issues also, or would you be happy if you got the money?
I would like her to leave and get the money.
Yeah. Well, I think you might have to choose either or, because if you take the money, you probably are not going to be able to execute on your judgment. But if you don't take the money, you'll be able to execute on your judgment, and you'll be able to execute on your judgment soon, because we're allowed to do all unlawful detainers through the end of April. I would encourage you to call Chris and talk to him some more about it. We had a really busy week this week, and I'll apologize to anybody whose calls I haven't returned, because I have some slips here that I've got to get to. But and I know Chris got his voicemail box full on Wednesday, because even I was helping him with this docket in the city, and it was so crazy. I mean, everybody who showed up was insane. And then he had trials all afternoon. I mean, it's been a week, but hopefully we'll get caught up this afternoon. So definitely call him and talk to him more about the specifics of it. But with an unlawful detainer, you know, that's not eligible for the CDC declaration, and it might not even be eligible for ERAP money. And if you want her gone, if you have good reason to want her gone, I would be cautious about accepting the money. Of course, if you do take the money, we could start that process all over again, but then you're waiting another few months and, you know, paying attorney's fees and court costs again.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Kathy, I've got a question.
Uh-huh.
Kind of feeding off of what he just said. I've got one. We filed for unlawful detainer March 15th. March 16th, they issued the summons with a hearing scheduled for next Monday. But on April 2nd, when the sheriff went out, apparently she wasn't home. So they've not served her. So, and no indication that if or when, and I've not been through this before, what happens when they don't serve.
Oh, yeah. And an unlawful detainer, instead of doing post and serve at the same time, you have to try to get personal service first, and then you can do what's called an order of publication. So that's what you do need to do now. You'll probably have to get a new court date, but it's basically a posting of the property.
Okay, so basically my tenant who hasn't paid me for 6 months and because the sheriff couldn't serve her, I'm out until we do get some sort of service on her.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
You can do the publication service next, which they don't have to be home, It just gets slapped on their door and posted in the courthouse and that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Hey Kathy, with the time frame that most of these leases are set up for, are most of your cases now unlawful detainers because the leases have already lapsed and there's no contract in place anymore because of the amount of time that's gone by? Because
No, not necessarily. We still are doing 90 to 95% rent and possessions. The issue is they're not paying rent and the landlord wants them to pay rent. We may have a few more unlawful detainers now because we could see this coming, that we were going to be allowed to evict on unlawful detainers sooner than others, So in some cases we've been doing a few more of them, but it's still the vast majority are still rent and possessions.
Okay, but with the cases now that were under lease and we've gone over a year, those leases aren't even valid anymore. Where at one time, it was rent in possession. Well, let's say it was a lease. The lease has expired with the time frame. Does that change anything now?
You can do an unlawful detainer then if you want to, but you don't have to. You could still just do a rent and possession.
Okay.
And I would say too that we do have, some from a year, but we don't have that many that are unresolved for over a year. The
Well, I'm
ones
not
that we
saying-
have are very, contentious, but it's not like hundreds of them.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
like
not-
the new ones coming in every month. They're not all for over a year. They're, they haven't paid in the last couple of months.
No, it's not work that you all did. It's just the leases have expired because the extension of all this stuff with the courts being closed down, those leases have, like mine, it's expired because we couldn't do the sheriff didn't come out and post it. Chris has got the judgment already, and now we're already past the year. If that makes any sense.
Well, I think as far as new suits are going, we're still getting mostly rent and possessions. And as far as the old cases go, we expect to be able to execute on those soon, Harry. Keep your fingers crossed. In the city. We should be there next month.
No, I understand. And the
Yeah.
backlog is so long, the fifth that he's asking for isn't a big deal because it'll probably take that long just to get to the cases
Yeah.
on a first come, first, first in, first out type thing.
I think, and again, this is inside baseball. I think that there was a reluctance in the city to do wholesale evictions while there was an election pending. Now that the election's behind us, I think the judge is going to move at the end of his next stay to open it for everybody. Okay, guys. Anybody else got anything? That's been a crazy week, but it was the week we were waiting for.
Way to go, Kathy.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks to all you guys for hanging in there for this year. Yeah.
Yeah. As a side issue, that foreclosure, that paperwork I dropped off,
Yeah.
she heard about it. She paid up.
There you go. Well,
Winner, winner.
good. Yeah. Okay, guys, I'll see you next week. Actually, next week I'm going to be in court in St. Charles, so there's a chance that it'll just be Chris or Christine doing this. If I mean, St. Charles has real court. I have a 9 o'clock motion and I don't know where I am on the docket, and I'm in front of a judge that I haven't been in front of before, but I've heard that she's very slow and thorough. So I don't know if I'll get here in time, but if not, Chris or Christine will be on.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so
Okay,
much,
see ya.
Kathy.